All right, we are live. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist, to the live stream Rapid Fire, where I answer people's burning questions. Um, so that's what this live stream is about. It's an open forum, much more laid back as far as moderation, although I still don't like people to preach at me, and I still don't like to have other things like that from the theist. But yeah, this is my stream to kind of field questions if people have something on their mind, want to talk about it. That's kind of what Rapid Fire is all about. But welcome to my channel. I am Ed Rabyd, your host, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. So welcome one and all. All right, let's see who's here. Let's see, we got Rimmer. He was here early talking about translation. I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. Martin's here. Evan is here. Good. We have the protective factor of the cranky elder god. So that's good. Let's see. Apostate Sisters is here. Welcome. Let's see. And I also have Azo here. Outstanding. A few people will probably trickle in. Yeah, welcome. This is, my weekly forum to kind of address questions. Rimmer had more of a comment earlier before the stream started about translations, and I do want to kind of address that. Language reflects the area, the culture of a group of people. And so when you translate something from one language to another, there's also an imposing of another culture on the original text. And sometimes because of the way language works, you can't always get a good translation. English translations are notorious for this. That's why we have so many different English translations, because of the way Greek is much more fluid and flexible in some ways than English is. So when I was translating the Bible in Bible college, that was one of the big problems that I had. So there's that. Hey, Jova, good to see you. Outstanding. And thank you very much. That's another super chat towards the ultimate goal. Just so everybody knows what I do there, it's like if I get 5 super chats in a week, I kill the ads on my streams altogether, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You probably have to fight through them today because I didn't get 5 yesterday, so we'll keep doing that. We're up to 3. And then also, if we get to 10, I will do a Friday live stream where I react to a video. And 20, I think I'm going to do for Saturday. I'm going to open up the StreamYard so that people can come in and talk to me more directly if that's what they want to do. Plus, I might have some special guests, so we'll see what happens. But that's a special event. If I get enough super chats every week, we'll do that. Just kind of deciding. You guys decide what I work on. Do I work on streaming and you super chat it to keep it going, or I will take Friday and Saturday off and work on videos instead? So I'm going to work on videos anyway. So tomorrow's stream will be a Bible study stream. I'm going to release the next episode of Questionable Witnesses as soon as I get off the stream. No premiere. And that will be the subject matter for tomorrow's stream as well. So there's that. But let's see. Welcome to Jova. Thank you very much. Who else have we got here? Oh, Alex is here. That's good. Good to see you. And Wolf is here. There was a... Okay, I'll interrupt. Evan, thank you. Ed is the very model of a modern major general. Okay. All right. I remember the poem, but thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But one of the things came up in yesterday's stream, I think it was Martin mentioned Paulogia's video dealing with Cameron of capturing Christianity. I've watched the bloody thing 3 times now. And Paul is pretty harsh on Cameron, but I don't think he's harsh enough. Azzo's probably got a more accurate representation. I'm a little bit off, but that's okay. I'm a little bit off, generally not, yes. But I was watching the video and I'm like, I am surprised at Cameron's changes. He used to be much more skeptical of claims, and now he's just like buying the Catholic claims. And Paul was, he says his epistemological is really poor. There's a lot of mental gymnastics to get to the places that he's getting in that video. And boy, is that really true. What the low bar level of evidence accepted would make low bar Bill proud. It was the more I watched the video, I'm like, wow, Cameron has just really changed. He used to be much more skeptical of everything, and now he's just buying Catholic tradition wholesale. And so I have watched that video, and it's been like, I've been asking the question, okay, is this the direction capturing Christianity is going, where they're just going to assume that Catholic tradition is true and just not bother to even be critical of that? So, so I don't know. It was I don't know. It was disappointing from my standpoint for Cameron. Cameron started to disappoint me. And so he's another apologist that's just kind of started to disappoint me even more and more. So there's that. Hey, good to see you. All right. Naughty step advocate. Okay. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I think, I assume you're talking about this guy. Uh, you know, can I speak about effective communication? This is not effective communication. This is somebody using a lot of big words to sound impressive, and I've never been like that. There's a lot of words that I could use from all of my degrees that I paid lots of money for, all those $20 words, and I don't use them because people don't live there. Okay, and so this is like, you need like a dictionary to understand what you even asked, and it's like, no, not going to do it. Okay, yeah, it's like it's this is like horrible communication. Okay, it's like you got to communicate at a level where most people will understand you. Otherwise, you're just engaged in bullshit. Okay, so I just don't have. Yes, I know. Copy editors get driven bananas by that stuff, but I don't. I mean, I could use, like, for Bible and theology, I could start talking about soteriology and eschatology and doing all the ologies. And it's like, no, let's just talk about the end time events, and let's talk about the doctrines concerning Jesus or the Bible, and be a little bit more direct about it. So there's that. So it's like someone's pretentious sister wrote, yeah, it's probably true. It I don't understand people who do that. I think it's trying to intimidate people by how smart you sound, and I don't buy it. Okay, I don't buy it. It's why I've always tried to communicate in very complex. We can, but I don't really know that holy underpants actually exists. So, um, yeah, be careful, Eric, but welcome. Kind of like you, so don't get yourself. I drive in heavy rain from time to time too. Let's see. In your preaching days, did you ever do a sermon on the moral lessons of the story of Lot in Genesis 19? Are there? Okay, the story of Lot. Okay, so Lot settles in a nice area near Sodom and Gomorrah. Um, very prosperous, and Abraham kind of gets the shaft, gets the shitty part of the country. Um, and because of Lot, Sodom and Gomorrah's sinfulness, God's going to destroy the country. Of course, he has to talk to Abraham about it first, and Abraham negotiates him down to 10 righteous people in the city. And you have Lot living in a land of sinners. And when the angels come to him, I suppose you're probably talking about the moment where Lot basically wants to hand over his daughters to the men of the city to protect the angels. And it really is the whole Enoch, the book of Enoch thing, because it drives a lot of the biblical writers, because they have these views of angels that are shaped by the book of Enoch. And so, from an moral, ethical standpoint, if you take that book seriously, then it is important to protect the holiness and sanctity of angels to the point that you would give up your own daughters to be raped. Bottom line, that's a moral action than anything else. So there's that. Wear holy thongs. You assume much. Yeah, I think Batman goes commando. I think that's probably true. Okay. Hey, Lisa, good to see you. It's a shame that my emoji doesn't show up on StreamYard. It kind of makes me sad. But there it is. Hey, Anne Marie. Yeah, there's also that this wife doing salt and the daughter banging their dad. Yeah, I mean we're doing. I mean, let's be honest about this entire story. It would be a great pornographic flick. Okay, let's be honest. I mean you have incest. You have what the hell did Lot's wife do other than God didn't want them to look back, which is kind of a weird request in the first place. Like, don't you want them to see your handiwork? Um, and then she gets turned into a pillar of salt over that, which sets up a scenario where Lot's daughters are like, yeah, we got to find somebody to get us pregnant so we have value. The whole, you know, I mean, he's already treated them like, they're just protection for angels. So that might have had to go into that distinction. So now they're just looking at him as another source of seed, so to speak. So, so there's that. But yeah, though I did preach on that. The way you avoid it is what I just said, is that there are higher moral principles, and sometimes you have to do dirty deeds in order to protect something that was better. And the angels are holy, and so you need to protect the holy angels. Not that it turned out that they really needed it in the story. They were the ones that ended up. Yeah, it's kind of that. Do you think Lot wrote "Sweet Home Alabama"? Yeah, probably. Yeah, William Lane Craig would die. Yeah, he would. Yeah, that's one part of the story that I've always wondered about too. So even as a Christian, I was like, oh, well, who saw her turn into a pillar of salt? Unless she was in front of everybody, and she turned around, turned into a pillar of salt, so that nobody looked behind them anymore. So yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, yeah. Well, beware, Lisa. We had the holy porn thing. Like somebody in one of my live streams a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about the red flags of Jesus. Because I was reacting to a video where they had a AI image of Jesus, and he's like buff and got the 6-pack abs and the whole 9 yards. And it's like, well, he's a pretty good looking guy. What are the red flags? And one person brought up, well, is there like biblical porn? And then this other lady in the chat said, oh no, now my curiosity is struck. I got to go look. And sure enough, there is holy biblical porn. So it exists. So it, but it would be a great, I mean, think about this. You've got gay sex in the beginning, as the angels come into the city. You've got all these people trying to chase down the angels. You've got Lot offering up his daughters instead, his virgin daughters. You've got a flight from the city. Um, I'm sure a porn movie can put some gratuitous nudity in there where they didn't have time to grab their clothes or anything. And we get into the cave, and then Lot's daughters do their thing. And yeah, I mean, I can see the whole story arc. Yeah, it's a disgusting story. It really is. And the I don't when I look at the story, it goes to the mentality of the people that wrote the original story, because we don't know who the author originally are. We don't have a name. And so the mentality is that women will do anything to get children, even bang their dad. Um, and so who's the moral monster in the story? And it kind of goes to that misogynistic attitude about women being temptresses in any situation. So there's a lot of stuff wrong with that story. But I can see the porn aspect come out of it. Hey, John, good to see you. Uh, yeah, I think that's a bad story too. Um, I've told people that if you did the actual Bible the way it's written, you wouldn't get past Genesis 2 before you'd have an NC-17 rating. Um, so yes, a God-inspired family, true, wonderful family story. Yes. Yeah, chip away at that salt and put it on the fries. Okay. See, this is the problem with my chat. They see too much humor in all this stuff. So, what did I think angels did as Christian? The problem with angels is there is, on one hand, there's a lot of stories with angels in it. And on the other hand, none of those stories really reveal the nature of angels all that much. And that was always my theological problem with them. It's like we have angels out there doing stuff for God. What exactly do they do? We see them being messenger boys. We see them, like the story of Lot, where they rescue Lot and get him out of the city before it's destroyed. You see them being the inspiration for prophets. And some of the angels that are described are really, really weird. And so you kind of, I don't know, the theology of angels is all over the place, even in Christendom. So for me, it was always, well, there's these beings running around protecting people, maybe, and giving messengers. So it's that aspect of it. So I don't know. It was always confusing to me, and my theology about angels was constantly changing because of it. Revelation doesn't help because you have all these angels that seem to be the heralds of woe. So they have all these different roles where they're basically servants and messengers of God doing God's bidding, which is strange idea for an omnipotent being. So, internet is for holy porn. uh, yeah, you have to believe a lot of other stuff to get there. People ask me, what the significance of Moses being myth and Joshua being myth. Well, Jesus literally says he treats them like it's literal history. And so Jesus is obviously in error about all that stuff. People diminish the connection between the Old and New Testament, but without the Old Testament, the New Testament kind of hangs in air. So she's a salt lick, huh? I wonder which parts they like to lick the most. There's, oh, really, not really. The Old Testament and the New Testament kind of keeps you there. Um, I don't know. You might say that the New Testament, by making church the church, the bride of Christ, makes women more valuable in their marriage context, but it sucks if you're single. So there's not a lot of I don't know how women are Christians or anything in Abrahamic religions. There's nothing for you there. So they paint your living room. That'd be nice. You were the one that did it too. The whole biblical porn thing. Your mind is now permanently warped, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh, yeah, the milkers. Yeah, referencing what I'd say if Lot's wife was turned into salt for the cows to lick, what part they would like to lick the most. Yeah, this is the thing. If you're an omnipotent God, you don't need servants. You really don't. You just do it, and it's not any more effort than anything else. It's what makes the omnipotent God a ridiculous concept when you really think about it. He wouldn't need anything, and if there was an omnipotent God, I think the deist God is more likely, because yeah, I'm going to be about my business, and I don't really give a damn. Why would God give a damn about an ape species that's the descendants of a whole bunch of millions of years of evolution? Why would he care? I started the thing rolling. That's good enough for them. But yeah, I don't think if you have an omnipotent God, you can have a good one. He's not benevolent. Yeah, it's wives and cattle are kind of listed as equal pieces of property that you're not supposed to covet after. Yeah, that doesn't help causes for a lot of well, as George Carlin pointed out, coveting is the key to the economy. So yeah, probably the doorway to it too. Now, it's the whole idea. I don't under. I mean, the real question I have is why salt? What the hell does that have to do with anything? Why turn somebody into a pillar of salt? That makes no sense to me. Um, I don't get it. Okay, it was one thing that I always. I don't know. It's it's just a weird thing to turn somebody into, and maybe I'm just not getting some of the culture of the people that wrote it. Now he has ED and he's taking it out on the rest of us. I suppose that could be. Hey, deconstructing camp. Welcome. Glad you could catch it live. Uh, they're a feature of local geology, which kind of makes it normal. It's really easy to say somebody is. See, if you're going to turn somebody into something as a sign, it should be like different than the surrounding geology. I mean, if it's all salt because it's near the Dead Sea, that doesn't really stand out. Um, if it was like a rock native to the other side of the world, that might make a lot more sense that nobody knew what it was. Um, Probably. um, the thing about such a culture, sex is seen as a mechanical act. I mean, don't get me wrong, they tried to have fun with it, but it's because it's all about procreation and mostly to ensure that males have male offspring. Women should stay home, make babies, preferably man child. I think that's the line from Raymond Williams. That's kind of the attitude of the Old Testament. It's like it's it's all about keeping women around as breeding stock in a lot of ways, and that's why they tend to be treated sometimes as persons and sometimes as property. in the Bible. There's definitely a property aspect of it. Um, you found that ridiculous? That would be great. I mean, wouldn't this be a real proof of God, though, Anne Marie, if believers could go fishing and get all their money for their taxes every year? Wouldn't that be like a proof of God, you know, that you could pay your taxes by joining a religion and fishing? I'd actually take up fishing and enjoy it then. Um, I always felt that that story when I was a Christian was a good example of Jesus going against self-righteousness. And I would teach it that way, that the temple had become so religious and self-righteous that they couldn't see other things. Yeah, it's kind of where they were from. So yeah, I can see why salt would be a thing, but it's like it's to a lot of people in a lot of areas of the world in the ancient world, salt is a very valuable commodity. It's a preservative. So thank you, Jova. Appreciate that. Uh, we've hit our 5 chats for the week, so I'll take off ads off the next stream. So thank you very much. But they say, Jova says the chat keeps me spitting my coffee out. This is hilarious, and I love you all. Yeah, we tend to be that way. I found out how dirty minded this thing is when I one of my streams, I asked them, give me bad pickup Christian pickup lines at a bar. And boy, was that legion. I spit out, I spent a lot of time laughing on that one. That one and the red flags of Jesus is some of the best moments. I've definitely got to cut those out and put them out as videos. Some, I have a unofficial Discord run by a guy named Bren, who's kind of a fan of the channel. So that link's in the description. I don't know how active it is. I don't go there myself. Unfortunately, I'm too busy between work and live streaming and putting out videos that I don't always have time to be. This is my social time with my fans. So is doing my live stream. So yes, I'm a fan of Norse mythology. So, but I look at it as mythology. I find it more interesting than the biblical mythology and a lot more fun. So, let's see. Oh, I know which story you're talking about too. There's a lot of euphemisms to genitalia in the Bible. They're always put in different words. It's like when the King James translates, something and Adam knew his wife. It was like, yeah, Adam banged his wife. I mean, why don't you just say it? But back then when they translated stuff, they didn't want to do that. Yeah, there would be a fishing tax, and then but then, the miracle part would just increase. There'd be more money in the fish. So to pay that tax too. I don't have a call in yet, breakfast tacos. I'm very guarded about those kind of things. I'm open to Saturdays if I get enough super chats that I may allow people in the stream, but I'm a very guarded person when it comes to that stuff. I've had a couple of theists be really dicks on some of my first attempts at that, so I'm trying to figure out safe ways to do that. I'm autistic, so when I get a live situation like that, I tend to freeze up sometimes. So yeah, I don't think Sodom and Gomorrah are real places either. And so the real thing about the salt is I think you'd have to get to who actually wrote this story originally. Like you would have to know the oral tradition behind it, and I don't know if that might not be lost to history. Um, but yeah, the real problem with this story with the salt thing, why should be turned into a pillar of salt is, was it written by people who actually knew the area and knew salt was common? Or was it written as something symbolic to them? And the problem is we don't know who really wrote this story. So, um, you're already, I just show up and you'll love it here. Yeah. Yep. I have a piece of artwork um, on the wall. It's Odin and his throne. You probably can't see the top of it. The top of it has the ravens as well, but it's Odin on his throne. Um, I don't know. Like I said, I like Norse mythology much better. When I stopped being a Christian, I started reading other mythologies, and I just like the Norse one the best. So I'm kind of a fanboy, I guess. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's another. It's a nice fish tail. It's not a whale tail, actually. It says it's a fish. I had to correct people on that all the time as a pastor. It doesn't mention being a whale. I think there's very few whales that could actually swallow people um, because of the way they eat. So there are some, but they're not that area. It's a big fish, which there are some prehistoric sharks that could definitely eat a man whole for a snack, like he was a tidbit. But so, you should have seen the one that got away. Oh, hey, Iron. Good to see you. Oh, oh. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to get for is there an origin myth story for Pillars of Salt? I'm not up on my mythology of the ancient East to know if that's a thing. Um, I studied a lot of Old Testament and a lot of history related to the Old Testament when I was in Bible college and seminary and later on, but getting to the mythology of why a pillar of salt would be significant has always bothered me about that story. So there's that aspect of it. Uh, Canaan and Judah, Israel were celestial places. Unfortunately, for history, for those of us who know history, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah have some historical attestation, as does some of the countries around them. It's like I say, the people were writing the Bible in like 600 BC, the Old Testament. And so they knew what they knew and they extrapolated backwards, but they did it really badly. Um, that seems to be the most common scholarly opinion right now. So, and I would, was it a sperm whale? I knew you would go that route. Why did I know that? Cranky Elder God. Maybe, maybe. Yeah. Except salt is useful. In the ancient world, salt is very useful. They don't have refrigeration, so salting the shit out of stuff was a good way to preserve it. So it had value. So, but the idea that we were joking about it earlier of putting a lot into the cattle farm field for the cows to lick. Um, yeah, that's something that might have happened to her. So yeah, yeah, God can screw you up. Yeah, it's a threat. I mean, it's definitely a threat. So, but see, this is why you should come here. The chat is legion. It's well done. So there's that. Yeah, yeah, it was money too. Like in Roman times, Roman soldiers got paid in salt, and they would trade that salt for other things. So salt, yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of expressions. That's a lot of salt. Not worth his salt is a direct reference to when the Roman soldiers were being paid in salt. Um, so it doesn't say that they were gay directly, but when you make the expression that David loved Jonathan more than I believe life itself, you kind of get this idea that there's definitely a very heavy bromance going on, what we would call a bromance, or something beyond, because it says at one point that he loved Jonathan more than he loved the love of women. And that's about as close as you can get in the biblical story to saying they were gay. Okay. Um, but you got to remember the Old Testament law forbid homosexuality, except God seems to give David a lot of passes. So, I mean, he lets him, get a guy killed, sleeps with his wife, gets her pregnant, does lies to cover it up, and completely gets away with it. A lot of other things happen to him, but he gets away with it. So at the same time, could David have been gay with Jonathan and got away with it because God's given him a pass? Yes, absolutely, because God's always given David a pass. So it's quite possible. Yeah, it's messy. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I get it, but we kind of know like Israel did exist, Judah did exist. It's just we're really not sure about all the stories about them. So he's not going to take it. Yeah, he does get away with everything, and that's my point. Like he violates so many laws of Scripture, and God just gives him a pass. He's a man after my own heart. Makes you wonder what the relationship between Yahweh and David was. So, it's like, yes, this is the point, because the way the text reads in Hebrew, I had a Hebrew professor make this point. He says it's hard to get past the idea that Jonathan and David were a little bit more than friends. Okay, they spent a lot of time together. They were alone together a lot, so to speak. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, Michael, even as a wife, Micah is she's an interesting little girl, Saul's daughter. She ends up, because she laughs at David dancing naked, getting the shaft as well. She never has kids. So, which back then would have been, as a woman, you're now useless. So, let's see. Yeah, he murders a bunch of people in war. He violates several commands of Scripture all the way through, and God just says, "Yeah, he's good." It helps to know God, I guess. Yahweh will give you a pass if He likes you. So, uh, oh, yep, there it is. Are you are you able to still speak in tongues? Yes. Um, I don't do it because it makes me feel really, really awkward, but I can. And the reason I can is it's a learned behavior. Um, Pentecostals like to deny that, but when you're sitting in a group of people that speaks in tongues all the time, you have a lot of that going into your ear, and you can pick up ways to do it. And if you're pressured enough and with enough peer pressure, you will come up with ways to speak in tongues to get people off your back about it. I remember I had a friend in the youth group that's exactly why they made something up and spoke in tongues so people would leave them alone. So I think I speak in the spirit. I just did that so people would leave me alone about it. So yeah, it's I just don't. Um, I think I've done a video called "Ex Pastor Speaks in Tongues." If you want to look it up, I actually do speak in tongues in that video, so you can hear how I could talk in it. But yeah, yes, they did lie in the field together. See, you got to understand the language and the way the relationship is. It does really speak to the biblical writers trying to get a gay couple into the thing without directly saying they were gay. It's pretty damn close. So, yeah, he's kind of a weird dude. Yeah, it's possible. But Saul like does something really minor and something that I would consider good. He spared some animals from dying, and he spared the king of the people that he conquered. And because of that, God gets pissed off. Well, David flat out adultery, murder, death kills a guy, lies about it. When four of his own kids get killed as a consequence, he weeps about it, but he doesn't really talk to God about it. He just kind of accepts it. There's a whole bunch of shit that David does in battle. Once he gets pissed off, so he just kills a bunch of people um, instead of taking prisoners of war. So it's just not a nice situation that David finds himself. He does all this stuff, and God just lets it go. Why am I an atheist? Because there's no evidence for the existence of any deity that I accept at present. None of it's good evidence. So, but yes, that's why I'm an atheist. That's what atheist means. You just don't believe in any God. So most of us are atheists because we don't find the evidence convincing for any God. You're welcome. Uh, yeah, there is a lot of stolen. Well, I won't say directly stolen. The point I like to make to Christians is it's not like when they talk about the Gospels copying stories, it's not so much direct copying, but the themes and the ideas already existed. Like resurrection stories and virgin birth stories were already common by the time Jesus arrives. So supposedly arrives. So it's that way. So there's that. But yeah. Yeah, they didn't want to admit it though. But yeah, but going further in this one, there is so much interconnection between mythologies. There's a lot of similar themes, regardless of where you go with mythology. It's almost like human beings have certain attitudes towards things that were similar. So you've also got, as you mentioned, Zoroastrianism definitely has a high influence on Jewish religion, and they bring back a lot of that stuff. So I don't believe in any deity. Um, I don't find the evidence for any of them convincing. They make great stories, though. The mythologies are great. You can talk about that stuff all day long. Yeah, that one's an interesting one too, Katie, because Ruth won't leave Naomi when she could easily get out, find herself a husband in the land that she says of her own people, but she sticks with Naomi for some reason, her mother-in-law. And so I don't know. I don't know if you can make the case that they were homosexual, but it does seem strange that she would have that kind of dedication. So yeah, I know a lot of people feel like it's fake right out of the gate when they speak in tongues. I now feel that way, and I just feel very uncomfortable because I feel it's so fake. Um, so yeah, uh, yes, I'm absolutely certain that's why they include it. Uh, Here's the thing, Cranky Elder God. If you look at the Old Testament as a political document, as something written designed to make a claim on a certain area of land by divine right, then it makes a hell of a lot more sense. And every story in it, like David being the king of Judah and later the king of Israel, and all of that, all the stories about him are definitely ways of laying claim. Okay. They're writing for the Babylonians, later the Persians, to kind of convince them to go back, which they get granted. The story of Nehemiah and Ezra actually has some historical backup, but not a lot, but some. So there's that. Um, you, I'm whatever evidence has been presented. You got to understand that that's a long topic. I spent 30 years studying the Bible and studying its claims. And so, yes, I absolutely know for sure that the Christian God doesn't exist. But when you take all of that understanding of epistemology and stuff to and what constitutes good evidence, especially if you study what's allowed in courts and what constitutes good scientific evidence and so on and so forth, testable, repeatable stuff, eventually all religions kind of don't meet muster. So it's like, and that's the same for Christianity. So, well, here's the thing, Drew. Paul uses that story as a way of illustrating how God just picks and chooses who he's going to like and who he's going to hate. It's one of the biggest Calvinist linchpins. Like they cling to that story of some people are destined for hell and some people are destined for paradise right out of the womb. Okay, so it's one of the very big injustice of God issues that I have with Calvinists and Christians in general. It's like, yeah, what did he do? I don't know. I guess God doesn't like people that hunt. I mean, I don't know. Uh, I mean, I would say to answer the one guy's question, an omni God just is logically inconsistent and not really possible. B.S. Lewis kind of, there's no evidence. Okay, that's kind of the point. So, um, I never did that, but I did. One of the things that I did when I was running a church, and this goes more to my ministry degree than my Bible studies, but one of the things we did in ministry is like how not to lose people. If you want to know the business model of most churches, we know that people are going to come and visit. We're trying not to get people to be afraid and leave. So peopling people, like calling them out in front of people, is a good way to lose people. Okay. Um, yeah, you can get control if you already have that person like under your thumb. That's a cultic tactic, and I would never do it. But I also never called out people to, like when they're first time visitors, where you're from, and you don't do that because that's a good way to get people not to visit again. So, um, it's bad evidence. Good evidence. There's standards of good evidence that exist outside in the world. You just look them up and then see if any claims of Christianity or any other religion, for that matter, um, it's it's not a there's good evidence and bad evidence, and I would say sometimes what people consider evidence really isn't evidence at all. So, but I've made it plain, give me some historical corroboration for the biblical stories, which there isn't very much, if any. uh, give me something testable and repeatable as the Bible claims. Miracles always seem to avoid that problem by never being testable or repeatable. So all the miracle claims of religions kind of disappear there for me. And anything you could take into a court of law that would stand up as good evidence. And the problem with most of the Bible is it's hearsay. So, all right. Thanks, Deconstruct. Yeah, go do what you got to do. But yeah, I just kind of gave it. I've done a video before on what evidence would convince me. I mean, you could look it up. I don't remember where exactly it is, but I did it a couple years ago because somebody asked, and I'm like, well, give me some historical corroboration of the events of the Bible, from a secular source that is genuine study, genuine archaeology, not flim flam stuff like most Christians do. Give me something testable and repeatable that shows that the Bible claims are true, or give me something that could simply hold up in a court of law as evidence for a case. And none of the evidence that's presented to me does any of that. The Gospels fail because it's all hearsay. So that's out. And you start looking at the books of the Bible, they pretty much all fail at some point. I'm not really sure any of them succeed. I don't know. Maybe I know some of the writings of Paul are authentic, but that just proves that Paul believes certain things. Yeah, most of it's hearsay. That's the problem with the Bible. Yeah, fictional stories. I like fiction. I do. I read a lot of it. Yeah, I think I agree with Anne Marie here. I'm not going to call you a troll, but it's your job to prove your claim. So not I mean, you can ask me why, give me something that you claim is true, and I'll tell you why I don't find it convincing. Uh, yeah, I don't think most people find the Bible convincing really when they think about it. I think a lot of Christians, I'll be blunt with you. I think a lot of Christians just do it for the cultural aspects of it. So there's a lot of people just in the church because they want to be in the church. So there's that. Yeah, this is the thing. You can't do things that are purely philosophical. I've dismissed all the philosophical arguments for God as the most common trait they do is beg the question. Okay, they assume the existence of God without defining what they mean by God, why a God has to be this way in order to be a God. It really shows the slipperiness of the term God in general, most of them. So, yeah, it's written post exile. It, I think we pretty much scholarship has pretty much verified that most of the Old Testament, like there may have been some oral tradition stories like Job that got written down at that time, but yeah, it's like it's like we have this pretty good body of evidence that suggests that the Bible was created and concocted post exile, which means a lot of the prophecies are also written down post hoc. So how convenient, that kind of thing. So there's that. Uh, yeah, yeah, they're written after the things that they prophesy. So it's like you're writing the prophecy down because it came true, but that kind of nullifies the prophecy's effectiveness because you could just be, this is the event, and now we're going to say the prophet said that. So it's like that's what most Christians don't get when I say your fulfilled prophecies don't do it, because you're always talking about how they're fulfilled after the fact, and you can just rationalize why that's so. So yeah, you can't all do something all knowing and unchanging. That's doesn't work. Omnipotence doesn't work with benevolence when you consider the evil in the world. The problem of evil argument is a very strong one against God. Huh. Oh, all right, there you go. I'm always happy to talk about anything. I have all this Bible theology bullshit in my head. So if it becomes useful to somebody, I'm always happy when that happens. So, oh man. Yeah, I mean, they were genuflecting to Cyrus to kind of get them to get their land back. And so yeah, you make a good point. Like a lot of the myths in the Bible are directly from the Babylonian style, and that's on purpose. It's why I say look at it as a political document trying to convince an ancient king that they should be allowed to go back to their land and settle there because it's there by divine right, and the whole thing makes a hell of a lot more sense. So, let's see. Yeah, I've heard that phrase lots of evidence as well, many times on many streams. What is your evidence? Can you give me some of this lots of evidence? And then when they start to do that, it's like, no, that's not good evidence. That wouldn't even hold up in court. Not all scientists believe that, and I certainly don't. I'm a soft determinist. There's things I can't control, and there's the few things that I can. Um, but that's more of a stoic view. But not every scientist believes that everything's determined. Um, there's definitely some discussion about that. I don't. That's an apologist argument. It's not one that most scientists make. Uh, Jim Bob tried to pull that shit with me before, and I pointed out in the video that it doesn't matter. Okay. It may not make you feel fine, but if it's true, you wouldn't know it anyway. So you can't act on that. And I would also point out that Calvinist theology basically says the same thing. So this is not a problem for atheists or scientists exclusively. Some theists have this problem as well. If you take an omnipotent God that is in control of everything, then everything's predetermined as well. And if everything's in the knowledge of God, of the future is absolute, then everything's predetermined as well. Every viewpoint has the problem with predestination. So, yeah, I mean, Calvin, yeah, that's kind of my point. And then Calvin was right too, John Calvin. Yeah, there is quantum science that kind of shakes up the idea of determinism because there seems to be some actual genuine randomness to some things. So there's that. I don't agree with any privilege that is based on who you were born to. So what? Okay. That's a great way to be an elitist, I guess. I don't insult Jews, but I don't think they're special because they're Jews. Yeah, the songs, the Ezekiel stuff. Yeah, that kind of points to that too. Yeah, I think a lot of it's exilic. The more I studied it, it was like this all makes sense if it's written during the exile. Like they're exiled from their land, and so they're building this history and this mythology and the law and the stuff. We had this in our old land, and so it's not because it lines up so much with your laws, old great Babylonian King Cyrus and Persian King Cyrus and all that other crap. Um, you should let us go back. Okay. Yeah, falsification. I mean, the fact that most religious claims don't put up a thing of falsification, how they can be falsified, the problem is most people don't realize how strong that makes your argument if you can literally say this is what would falsify something, and then you go out and search for a way to falsify it, which is actually how science really works, is you're trying to, falsify your claims and see if it works. And if it holds up, no matter many times you try to falsify it, then it has a pretty good chance of being true. Reproducibility, being verified by actual research. Yeah, that's always good stuff. Probably because it just relates some sort of story. The thing about the Book of Esther is that actually has problems historically speaking too. There's no record of a Queen Esther outside of the story, as I understand it. Maybe there is, but it's been a while since I've dealt with that story. Um, but there's no miracles in it either. Okay, it's just a political drama, which makes it one of the more believable stories in the Bible. Yeah, it's only ever noticed after it's happened. So there's that. Yeah, the thing is, this is an open forum, and I try to be more tolerant of the theists, Anne Marie. I really do, because they really illustrate my point so well as an atheist, don't they? It's like, but you're coming in. I There's some pretty hardcore atheists in this room right now that, and I have a cranky elder god too. So it's like you're coming into to people who know why they're atheists. Okay, I know why I'm an atheist. Okay, and it's because your evidence sucks. Okay, what you think is good evidence isn't, it has a very low bar epistemological standard, which may make Low Bar Bill proud, but it doesn't do any good for the faith. Okay, if you're trying to prove it, you're going to have a problem with this crowd. Okay, I have some good people here that know their stuff, and that's why I love this chat. Chat's hilarious at times, and people love it. You know, as Jova pointed out, it's hilarious at times, but it's also these are people that left their faith, and they did so for damn good reasons, and so including me. Okay, so it's like coming here, you might want to bring your A game. I think people need to bring their A game and really be ready to genuinely discuss why instead of just bam. No, but they do this. Yeah, there usually isn't. The razor has a tendency to get rid of most things. The diaper's full. That's good. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of scientists have realized that a lot of laws are probabilistic. There's high probability for most laws, but so there's that. And there would be other Calvinists that would come in here and say, you're the heretic. Isn't that great? I always love that about Christianity. Everybody's a heretic but you. Or as Christopher Hitchens says, I have no choice but to believe it, that I have free will. I hated suits. Alex, did I come off as a pastor? I hated suits. I wore them in my first church because it was expected. And then in my second church, I dumbed it down. It was not uncommon for me to be in tennis shoes, jeans, and a polo shirt on Sunday morning, or dress pants and dress shoes sometimes on more formal occasions like communion. But I dumped the suit and tie, I want to say, in my last Assembly of God church. And then in my last church, I didn't wear it either, except for like weddings and funerals and stuff like that. But yeah, I really hated I wasn't trying to be young and relatable. I just wanted to be comfortable. That's not because it's because it doesn't deal with that. Why does it deal with that at all? You don't seem to understand that it doesn't deal with that at all. Atheism is simply saying, I'm sorry, you've made a claim that there's a God. You presented your evidence, but I think your evidence is bad and non-convincing. Okay. Atheism isn't designed, it cannot be a worldview because it doesn't deal with all the worldview questions. This is one of the things you guys keep putting on atheism, like we got to have a worldview or something of knowledge, and that's not our business. All an atheist says is, I don't believe in God. That's it. Okay, we're not dealing, there's other ways to have bases for knowledge, but it doesn't have anything to do with atheism. Okay, and other theists go for those forms of knowledge too. So it's all atheism is this limited thing, and you guys always make it more than what it is, which is part of the reason I did this channel, was to clear that up. And I'm constantly clearing it up because you guys still want to make atheism more than what it is. It cannot be a worldview. It doesn't have the capacity to be a worldview. It is simply one thing about one thing, the existence of God. And the existence of God is rejected by the atheists because the evidence isn't convincing to them. That's it, full stop. Okay. After that, there are tons of atheists with tons of different worldviews, and they go all kinds of different directions. I don't have to provide that because it's not its business. And you have knowledge based on something else other than a belief in God. Okay. And that's the only point that atheism would make. Okay. You didn't need a God to have it. So, and it's the same with the moral thing. We don't have morals. It's like, we have a basis for morality. You may not like it or may not think it's a good one, but that's far different than saying we don't have one. There's a lot of different moral bases too. They all want to be one thing. No, we don't just give up. That's another myth about atheism too. Just I don't seem to have given up. Yeah, either. Okay, that's once again, this is a trope. Okay, Christ 5.0, 5.0. It's a trope that we don't have any reason to live. That's what apologists tell you. Maybe you should talk to some atheists about what reasons they live before you make such a bullshit observation. I really get tired of that one too. I have a basis to live. I have a basis for my morality. You may not agree with them, but I have both of those things. So, but that's, to say that we don't have, that's just straight up deceiving yourself more than anybody else. So there's that. Hey, Skyworks. Good to see you. Does Van Til at least has a coherent argument? I'll have to look at it. Maybe not convincing. It's not convincing, I'm sure, but because of its precept, it's not going to be that. Judas was the original pre-supper, no post-supper Judas. Okay, that's probably true. And the thirst goes away. Yes, this happens. Yeah, it seems kind of a weird reason to get mad at us. Like we don't make a choice about what God to worship or anything like that. They just get mad about that. And I just don't understand why they're getting angry about it. You're worn out, Ronald. Trust me, I feel that way almost every stream. At the end of every stream, I'm just like, oh my God. Even in the ones I try to keep the theists out. So there's that. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I have found more value to my life since leaving this notion that I've got a life after this one. Suddenly, this one has become very, very precious to me, and I want it to be a good one. Um, I wanted to do all the things I want to do and all that stuff, but at the same time, I know at some point it's going to become wearying, and me and Mark Twain are probably going to have the same idea of let's just go to sweet oblivion, okay, and leave the troubles of this world behind. So for good. So there's that. Yeah. Oh my. Well, thanks for the beer money. I haven't bought a beer in a while, but I'll do it. But thank you, Cranky Elder God. I appreciate your support of the channel. I really do. And it's nice having a Cranky Elder God around. I mean, if we're going to have a God around this place, it should be an elder one. So Cthulhu makes much more sense in many ways than Yahweh does. So, but yeah. Well, folks, I got to run. I've hit my hour mark and gone a little bit because the conversation was interesting, but I have to get ready for work. And so I'm going to have to shut it down and get something to eat and get ready for work and do all those things. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Please like the stuff before you leave. I would appreciate that. Like the video, share it with your friends. There's some good discussions today, so definitely some good ones worth sharing. So thank you very, very much for everybody being here. I appreciate all of you. You guys are awesome. But make sure you do all the things. I appreciate all that. Consider becoming a member. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so. I appreciate that. So, but peace out, everybody. Appreciate you all. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So make sure you're taking all your time, your money, and opportunities and spending them on yourself and the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.